Well, this is session 2 of our January leadership seminar, and this one's not nearly as heavy as session 1, and probably will have a whole lot less homework than session 3 too. 3 also. Anyways, and what I want to talk about in session 2 is something called spiritual disciplines. Now, I know that discipline often has this feeling of judgment or pain or punishment, but discipline is really more about just those rules that we put in our life to help us grow. Those practices that we do consistently over and over again to make sure that we build the right habits and start going in the right direction that keep us on the right path. And they also have the increasing value of creating positive habits that we engage in without added mental effort. So what I mean by that is, how many times have you gone to brush your teeth and you haven't even thought about what you're doing, right? You've done it so many times. You brush your teeth, you go through the whole process, and you're not thinking about brushing your teeth at all. You just do it by habit. Your brain is freed up from processing. Okay, I need to do this with the toothbrush, and then I've got to do this with the toothbrush, and then this. No, your brain is totally freed up. It's functioning by habit, by discipline that you've built into your life that allows you to focus on other things or to do other things or just do that one thing well and have that already established in your life. And you just naturally end up doing it now. And so spiritual disciplines are those same things, are those practices that we do over and over intentionally to get to the place where it becomes part of our routine, part of our habit, and part of our natural everyday lifestyle, and it becomes something that doesn't take as much focus or effort to engage in. It becomes part of our rhythm. And what that does is it frees up our brain to engage in other parts of the process or helps us to focus better on other things, and it allows us to become more and more healthy. I mean, like brushing your teeth. Like having that as a habit is very good. It's very healthy. And because you've already established that means that you are just naturally, by habit, doing things that keep you healthy. Spiritual disciplines are very similar. So there are a number of spiritual disciplines that I want to talk about or share with you and kind of explain so that you have an idea of what they are and what they can do. The first spiritual discipline is Sabbath. And Sabbath in Jewish culture is actually Saturday. Now, in the Christian world, we practice that on Sunday because we believe that Jesus rose from the dead on Sunday. And so we've determined that we are going to celebrate and practice Sabbath on Sunday. Now, it really doesn't have to be Saturday or Sunday. Okay? Sabbath is about taking that time to focus on God and taking that time away from work. Now, the Sabbath has its root in creation, where God worked for 6 days and on the 7th day he rested. Sabbath has this requirement in the law about you can't do any work. You do the work on Friday, and then you don't do any work on Saturday. You will have enough food from Friday to take care of you on Saturday. If you work on Saturday, that shows that you don't trust me, God, to provide for you. And so it has this rhythm where it's all about trusting God to work on that day that you're not working. Trusting God to accomplish what needs to get accomplished on the day that you're not doing all that work. It has to do with about the ability to enjoy, taking time to enjoy things on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. It has to do with facing the reality that you are a limited being and you require rest. And so taking time for Sabbath is very valuable, is a valuable spiritual discipline because it helps establish faith and trust in God. It gives you good rest. It helps you to remember not to focus just on the work, but to focus on joy and enjoying your family and creation and God and the moment. And so that's why it's one of these disciplines that it's not something that we naturally do, but when you build it into the rhythm, it has a positive effect. And so spiritual discipline is, number one, is Sabbath. Taking consistent, regular time off, away from your regular work, to trust God, to grow in faith, and to build joy. So that's number one. Number two, prayer. Prayer is this massive one that has so many different angles and qualities to it. We could just call it conversation with God. So much of it has those different layers of, sometimes you talk to God and it's you pouring out your heart upset. Sometimes it's you going to him, asking, begging, please do this. I need you to do this. Sometimes it's just sharing what's going on in your life. Sometimes it's you listening and just listening to him. But it's taking that time to have conversation with him. And again, this is very similar to conversations in our relationships with other people. That if you want to have a good relationship with other people, you've got to have conversations with them. You've got to take time to talk to them. And so prayer is that conversation with God and making sure that we're taking time really daily to talk to God. And sometimes it's, here's what's going on. Sometimes it's, God, I really need these things. Please hear me. Sometimes it's just sitting in the quiet and listening to him. Sometimes it's a talk to him and then listen, and talk to him and listen. But setting aside time daily to talk to God will help you become more aware of his presence and more aware of what he's saying and more aware of what he's doing. And it'll actually help build your relationship. And you'll start to see that there's more and more evidence that he's hearing you and that he's working with you and that it is a conversation. And so I encourage you to invest in Sabbath and prayer on a regular basis. The next discipline is silence, and that's taking time just to be quiet. And that part of that is listening to God, and part of that is just not filling your life with noise. Taking time to be quiet just stills your heart, stills your mind, allows you to think about what's actually going on in the back of your head, helps you become more aware of yourself, helps you become more aware of what's going on. And it means that you can't just be distracted and filled with all kinds of other stuff. Now, there, just turn the phone off. Silence. That was weird. I'm talking to you and then the phone rings. Silence. That plays. That helps. It's hard, but it helps you become more aware of yourself and helps you be able to hear God better. The next spiritual discipline is giving. And that is both about generosity and giving to others and making sure that your life is a life built on blessing others and not gaining for yourself. But it's also about being obedient in your tithes and giving to the church and giving to God and giving to missions and making sure that you are consistently giving out of what God has given you. And that helps you build trust in him because you give to him and he still provides. You've still got enough. It helps you, again, not be focused on how you can provide, but focus on how God can provide. It helps you to push away from greed and push into selflessness, which frees things up and does all kinds of good things to your heart and to your mind. And it is a spiritual discipline. The giving and tithing are spiritual disciplines that build those habits and those changes into your life. Fasting is another one. Fasting is this process where you decide to take a certain amount of time away from something you would normally do. Now, often it is food, saying I'm going to fast a meal, or I'm going to fast a day, or I'm going to fast for several days. I've done a fast for several days back when I was at Bible college. After the first day or so, the hunger feeling doesn't really change. And you're just kind of there. And that was a real interesting experience, but it was just, maybe you can't fast food, maybe because you'll get a headache or you'll get sick or whatever. That's not a thing for you. Maybe it's fasting chocolate, or maybe it's fasting TV or fasting music, or something where fasting sports. And you say for a time, maybe it's a day, maybe it's an event, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month, maybe it's several months. You say, I'm going to cut this out of my life to allow for more focused attention on other things, to focus on more attention for God and more attention on what He's saying and more attention on what He's doing. It's a little bit of a sacrifice and saying, God, you're worth me giving this up for you. And it's also this reminder because, for example, when you're hungry, it reminds you about God and say, oh, right, I'm hungry because I'm giving this up for God. And it reminds you to think about Him and to pray. And it allows for more time and effort to pray. Now, one of the other elements of this is not just about selfishly growing yourself. It's one of these pieces where, say you fast a meal, it may be beneficial for you to take that meal and give that to somebody else. And that builds into this concept of you fast so you can bless. And so there's a whole lot to the fasting thing, but that's another spiritual discipline that you can practice. Bible reading consistently, getting your Bible, getting a translation that you can understand, and reading that daily on a consistent basis, whether that's a few verses or a chapter or a few chapters or a devotional plan or a reading plan or whatever it is. Reading your Bible on a consistent basis is a spiritual discipline. Memorizing verses from the Bible. If you've got a devotional and it's got a daily verse and it means something to you, it connects to you, it is great to memorize that, to go through your day and try to remember it, to go and to build. And if you say, I'm going to memorize a verse a week, then what you do is you memorize that verse that week, and the next week you try to remember that first verse and you pick up another one. And what that does is it builds it into your mind and has that already stored into your mind and can come. There's a verse in Psalms, Psalm 119, that says, I have hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you. So memorizing it puts it into your heart and helps you fight the battle. Another one is the spiritual discipline of service, and that just means that you are going and you're serving, you're volunteering, you're serving with the church, you're serving in ministry, you're serving with the community, and you're volunteering and you're blessing other people without getting paid. Another spiritual discipline is worship, which is your life. That can be with music, it can be in the Word, it can be through singing, it can be through playing an instrument, it can be in just how you live your life and that you're spending your life to bless God and to honor God and show Him how worthy He is. And the last spiritual discipline I'll mention here is accountability. And that's when you decide something or want to make a change and you meet with somebody else, and they're able to check in on you about that thing, and they're able to hold you accountable. And you might say, I want to pray every day this week. Okay? You would find somebody to hold you accountable to that, and they would check in with you and say, did you pray every week? And that will help keep you on track. Or you may have some questions like, every week I want you to ask me how I'm doing with lust, or how I'm doing with negativity, or how I'm doing with time with my family. And they will ask you that every week and hold you accountable to it. And so those are some of the spiritual disciplines that we practice, and things that just build in your life. Now, what I want you to do for your homework with this session is I want you to just answer these questions, okay? I want you to answer, which spiritual disciplines have you tried? Which spiritual disciplines have you tried? Secondly, which disciplines have you never tried? Which ones have you never tried? Thirdly, which ones are you apprehensive about and why? So which ones kind of scare you or you're nervous about doing and why? And then finally, what I want you to do after you've answered those three questions is I want you to pick one discipline to do on a weekly basis and tell someone what your plan is. So for example, you may say, I want to pray daily. Okay? I want you to tell somebody that that is your plan, that you are going to pray daily. Or maybe it's, I want to read my Bible 3 times a week. I want you to tell somebody that your plan is to read the Bible 3 times a week. Now, the reason for that is one that engages you in accountability. Just low level. They don't even have to check on you. You just have to tell them. The second reason you're going to tell them is because then it becomes something real. When you say it out loud to somebody else, you can't just automatically take it back. When it's just in your head, you can kind of be like, that was what I was thinking, but I decided against it. When you say it to somebody, it solidifies it, it makes it real, and you gotta hold onto it because you've spoken it, you said it out loud, you can't pretend you didn't think it, you've told somebody else, they know about it. And it just helps push you a little bit into engaging in it. So I encourage you to check out these spiritual disciplines, choose one to engage in, tell somebody about it, practice it, and see how the discipline grows into a habit and continues to grow a healthy spiritual life for you.